An interesting few days in the standoff between South Korea, the United States and North Korea, with all sides walking on eggshells to avoid abandoning denuclearization dialogue even after North Korea's recent short-range missile launches. Taking you through the latest developments in these uncertain times, I'm Alex Jensen for North Korea Now. So, South Korea has been reluctant to say the North fired ballistic projectiles. The official line has been Seoul and Washington are analyzing the launches. Recognizing these missiles as ballistic would prompt UN Security Council action, as the North's barred from developing such technology. That said, President Moon Jae-in did appear on television just hours after North Korea's second round of launches last week. During an interview with public broadcaster KBS, he issued what might be considered a low-level warning, saying if such behavior is repeated, it could make the current dialogue and negotiation phase difficult. Not exactly a threat of fire and fury like we heard from the US in the past, but perhaps a realistic reflection of Moon's concerns. Another thing he emphasized, and we also heard this from US President Donald Trump lately, is that the North's projectiles only flew relatively short distances. Interestingly, Seoul's defense ministry also said inter-Korean military communication lines have been operating normally, despite Pyongyang's recent launches. The two sides have had regular contact twice a day, which may imply that North Korea is leaving the door for dialogue open, a government source told us. As for the US, we're not seeing much willingness to back down, but Washington's also being careful not to escalate the situation. US President Donald Trump said in a recent interview with Politico, when asked whether he was angry about the North's missile launches, "I'm not at all. They're short range, and I don't consider that a breach of trust." He went on, "These were short-range missiles and very standard." Of course, this is the man who's touted North Korea's suspension of nuclear and missile tests as one of his diplomatic accomplishments. Like Moon, Trump has very much set his course toward peaceful denuclearization, even if the US leader isn't so ready to compromise. And that point was underscored by his Secretary of State Mike Pompeo when he met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov this week. Pompeo said the two countries agree on the goal of North Korea's denuclearization. But Lavrov also noted North Korea expects concessions from the US. For North Korea, Pyongyang's latest launches have involved only short-range missiles so far and appear to be the result of frustration rather than returning to nuclear provocations. We can see that frustration in other ways too. The North this week demanded that the US release a cargo ship seized on suspicion of violating UN sanctions, denouncing it as an outright denial of the spirit of last year's first ever US summit. But Washington's State Department has refused to comment and doesn't seem like it's about to offer sanctions relief. Trump did recently offer his approval to South Korea if it wants to provide food aid to the North, and that's something the nation urgently needs, according to the UN World Food Programme. But that's not appeased North Korea so far, as Pyongyang's state media has repeatedly called on Seoul to pursue deeper cooperation without relying on American support. And so where does that leave the prospect for further dialogue? Trump summed the situation up when he said, "The relationship continues, but we'll see what happens. I know they want to negotiate. They're talking about negotiating, but I don't think they're ready to negotiate. It's clear no one wants to give up on dialogue, but they don't want to give way either."